Verse 39. Of the miseries of the land of Egypt, the half hath never been told, nor shall ever be, nor ever shall be, for they were of the nature of the flesh, and of such kind that one may not mention them fully. For the history would also involve the beasts of the fields, and dogs, and male and female, and goats also. Verse 40. Suffice it, the people were victims of evil spirits, and had descended to such unnatural practices as poisoned the flesh, which became inhabited with vermin. And they had running sores, and only evil practice alleviated the pains. The people were subjected to entrancement by evil spirits, and the later appeared amongst the people, taking to themselves corporeal forms for evil's sake, also eating and drinking with mortals daily. Verse 41. When Moses beheld these things, he prayed to Jehovah for wisdom and strength, for thousands and thousands of Israelites were becoming afflicted in the same way. Jehovah answered Moses, saying, Because of the abundance of evil angels in this land, it is impossible for my chosen to dwell herein and escape affliction. Moses explains this matter to the Israelites. Now here Moses returned after being absent for 3 years. And as it's stated, if Moses killed somebody, why would he return with that hanging over his head? Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 15, verse 42 through 46, states, verse 42, Jehovah said, Moses, thou and thy brother shall return to the king, for he is worried concerning thee and thy labors. Behold, the nobles have complained before the king against thee. Verse 43, Moses visited the king, who was sick with a fever, and the king was on his divan at the fountain in the palace grounds, and the men's servants were forcing water. When the king saw it was Moses, he raised up rejoicing and called Moses to come and sit with him, and servants ran in and told Leotonis, Pharaoh's daughter, that Moses had returned. And Leotonis came also and rejoiced to see Moses. Now whilst they were talking, the king was overcome and fell in a faint, whereupon Moses raised him up and restored him, and then carried the king into the palace. In his arms carried he him. Verse 44. Leotonis said, Moses, my son and brother, thou shalt not more leave us alone. Behold, my father is old, and he gave his heart to thee when thou wert a child. Be thou to him his son. Behold how he revives in thy strong hands. Verse 45. Then spoke the king, saying, My son, with all thy wisdom can thou understand a woman? Moses said, Alice, O king, except the princess, I have not studied them, but why askest thou? Verse 46. The king replied, Leotonis had not said one word about the affairs of the kingdom. What is uppermost in a woman's heart, that speaks she first. But as to man, he speaks first that which lies at the bottom of his heart. I love thee, Moses, and delight in thy presence, but my kingdom concerns me deeply. The nobles have complained against thee for meddling with their slaves, and for this I have desired to see thee. So here is Amenemhet III, Moses' stepfather, talking to Moses about his daughter, which would be Sobek-Neferu, and here she is called Leotonis, managing the kingdom after him. And it is when Sobek-Neferu, who was the last pharaoh of the Middle Kingdom, Amenemhet IV being removed from office because of his race being a Hebrew, as is stated in chapter 15:14, but because of the prejudice against him for being an Israelitish blood, the court of the pharaohs importuned the king for his removal, and Moses was removed from office under the king. This is why Amenemhet IV had a short reign. He was removed from office. At the time, Amenemhet III would have been old in age and only had his daughter Sobek-Neferu to manage the throne after his death. And this is what brought the Middle Kingdom to an end after Sobek-Neferu. Now, the book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 15, verse 47, states, Moses said, The voice came to me, informing me of what thou says, and then commanded me to come to thee, for thou wert ill with fever. And the king replied, saying, If I should die before thou hast accomplished the migration of thy people, I fear my successor, Nugan, will make it hard for thee. Tell me then, therefore, how matters stand with thee. So here the Pharaoh is aware of his successor, which will be the Pharaoh to start the new kingdom. This Nugan is equivalent to Amos, the first ruler of the new kingdom. Now here it shows that the oracle of Egypt were the enemies of Jehovah, the Creator. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 15, verse 48 through 50, it states, verse 48, Moses said, Jehovah hath planned this migration. It cannot fail. 4. Witness thee what proof I have found. The Israelites were looking for a leader forth, even as I was named in the basket. And wherever I have gone, the rabbis and their families are acquainted with the matter as if it were born in their souls. Verse 49. The king said, Everywhere the oracles declare against thee and Jehovah, saying, Thou art in the hands of evil spirits. Verse 50. Moses said, What are the oracles to me? To feel assured one is in a good work, this is better than oracles. So here, the oracles of Egypt were against Jehovah and Moses and the Israelites movement. And this is still part of the wars against Jehovah. Now here's where Aaron informed the family heads about the migration out of Egypt. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 16, verse 1 through 3, it states, verse 1, The voice of Jehovah came to Moses, saying, Have the king give thee commissioners who shall go in advance and examine the countries whither I will lead thee. And when the commissioners have returned, thou shalt proclaim to my people what the commissioners say, and the people will be convinced, and raise up and follow thee. So Moses asked the king for a commission of Egyptians, and the king appointed 33 men, and allotted to them 7 months to accomplish the inspection, and he gave to the commission camels and asses to ride upon, and to carry food to eat on the journey. Verse 2. Meanwhile Moses sent Aaron around about throughout Egypt, to inform the people of the commission, and also as to how they should make their outfits. And Aaron said unto the rabbis, Be ye circumspect as to the outfits of our people, observing that they carry not away with them anything that is another's, even to a friction. For thus hath Moses commanded me to say unto you. Verse 3. When the commissioners returned and made their report, which was favorable, Moses had the report sent amongst the Israelites, and Moses added, For there be such as having little faith in Jehovah will have faith in the words of the commissioners. Now here's where the Egyptians tried to tell Amenemhet III, Moses' stepfather, to stop the exodus and abdicate the throne, which will in return start the new kingdom if he did. Now, Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 16, verse 4 through 7, it states, verse 4, The gods of the Egyptian were not idle, and they sent word by way of the oracles to the courtiers and nobles to the effect that Moses had persuaded the king to hand the kingdom over to the foreign nations, knowing the king had no son eligible to the throne. So here's more verification that Amenemhet III didn't have no son to inherit the throne, so he was the last legitimate male ruler of the Middle Kingdom. Verse 5. The courtiers and nobles therefore importuned the king to choose one of the two, either to banish Moses out the country and put aside all arrangements for the migration of the Israelites, or on the other hand, to abdicate the throne in favor of Nugan. In the meantime, a whole year's drought came upon Egypt, and the rivers overflew not, so that famine was sure to fall upon many parts of the country. So here it states that a year's drought came about, so the river Nile didn't overflow. And these records are found in this letter documented from the Nubian fortress of Kumah, relates a poor flood of some 1.83 meters and dates to Sobeknefu's last year, and this fits this same time period. Verse 6. The king answered the demand of the courtiers and the nobles with these words, I am Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Look ye to the threatening famine. Provide the stores for my people. I declare to you a new thing is come unto the world, which is migration from bondage. Nor is it in the power of nobles or courtiers or kings to stay this invention. Verse 7. When the courtiers received this, answer they said to one another, These are Moses' words fashioned for the king's mouth. Certainly he hath lost the fear of the Lord, and hearkeneth to the great spirit of the Israelites. So here even Amenemhet III, the stepfather of Moses, was convinced and was all for the Exodus. So the Pharaoh that brought the persecution as far as the Exodus wasn't the stepfather of Moses. It was somebody else, and we're going to address that. Now here are the head rabbis for the Exodus. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 16, verse 8 through 11, it states, verse 8, Jehovah through his angel spoke to Moses, saying, Now is thy time. Go to the heads whom thou hast chosen, and appoint a time unto them of one place, and a time unto others of another place, and so on until all the heads, and thou shalt make the armies going forth so numerous that the Egyptians will be overwhelmed. Verse 9. These then are heads, the chief rabbis appointed by Moses, and the places in Egypt whence they were to depart from. Verse 10. Rasak, son of Ubeth, of the place Hagar. Ishmael, son of Estar, of the place Ranah. Gamba, son of Hanar, of the place Nusomat. Botad, son of Ninus, of the place Pelgath. Amram, son of Yoth, of the place Borgal. Lachidak, son of Samhad, of the place Apau. Jokyah, son of Kedam, of the place Hasakar. Joveth, son of Habed, of the place Odeh. Satu, son of Baal, of the place Haragatha. Tusumak, son of Abin, of the place Ra. Makrath, son of Phelata, of the place Naboth. Hajamek, son of Tor, of the place Nujoram. Phalu, son of Hagan, of the place Enitz. Shutah, of the place Rumjah. Jokin, son of Rutz, of the place Moan. Tudan, son of Barach, of the place Hezron. Osharach, son of Libnah, of the place Raam. Thamis, son of Rodad, of the place Sakaz. Missa, son of Tidias, of the place Tesam. And Saul, son of Zakas, of the place Enias. Verse 11. Jehovah said, and the head shall have notice 77 days, and they shall notify the rabbi of their places, that due preparation shall be made for the start. Nevertheless, the time appointed unto the people shall be kept secret with the heads of the rabbi. And whatever number the rabbi can send forth, he shall notify the head. And when all things are in readiness, that number shall go forth on the day appointed, every one on the same day. Now here it reveals the month of the Exodus and the covenant of the slaughtering of the lamb. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 16, verse 12 through 14 states, verse 12. And Moses appointed the month Abib, and the 10th day thereof, when all the people shall start. And moreover he said unto the heads, ye shall see to it that the night before they start, even at the hour of sunset, and the moment thereof, every family shall offer a lamb in sacrifice, and every man and every woman and every child that can speak shall covenant unto Jehovah in the blood of the lamb. Verse 13. When the time of the slaughter is at hand, the family shall stand around, and the lamb shall be in the midst, bound head and foot. And when the knife is raised for the blow, no one shall speak. For that which is to be shall be the covenant of the blood of the lamb against Egypt. And when the throat is cut across, the blood flowing, they shall all say, in Egypt the lamb of Jehovah is dead. His God shall go henceforth with Israel, but Egypt shall be accused from this night. Accept this my covenant with thee, O Jehovah, Eoah. For innocent blood hath been shed as a testimony before thee, that with tomorrow's rising sun I rise to lie not down again in Egypt forever. Verse 14. Thus went Aaron and Akkad, bearing this message in secret to the heads of the house of Israel, of the houses of Israel, saying unto them, thus saith Moses, this is the commandment of Jehovah, who is almighty. Now here is where the death of Amenemhet III, or Moses' stepfather, takes place. Book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 16, verse 15 through 17 states. Verse 15. And now, on the eve of success to the Israelites, the king of Egypt, being at the point of death, sent for Moses, and Moses went to him. And the king said, if it should be the Lord's will to take me off before thy people are gone, thou wilt have great bother. For my successor, Nugan, hath a great hate toward Israel. Verse 16. Moses said, what then shall be done? The king said, behold, the pestilence hath overspread Najut and Arabina. Thy people will be cut off from traveling by that way. Nugan and his courtiers dwell in Harboth. Moses replied, my people shall march through Najut and Arabina. Neither shall the pestilence come upon them, for the hand of the Almighty is in this matter. Verse 17. Leotonis, learning that Moses was with the king, went in to see him. She said, O my son and brother, thou art welcome. Behold, the trials of the royal court and the persistence of the nobles are the death of the king. To this the king said, and still I live. But Alice, these were his last words, for he laughed and the blood burst through his heart, and he died then and there, even in Moses' arms. So now that Amenemhet III, Moses' stepfather, is dead, this ends the Middle Kingdom. Moses, being removed from office, leaves his daughter Sobeknefu to manage the kingdom, which was a short reign. Now here is the beginning of the new kingdom with the new Pharaoh declaring his son-laws. The book of the Ark of Bond, chapter 17, verse 1 through 7, it states, verse 1, Jehovah through his angel said unto Moses, When the body of the king is embalmed and put away, thou shalt go quickly to thy people. For he who comes to the throne is under the voice of the Lord Baal, and he will try to prevent the departure of my chosen. So Moses left the capital and did as commanded. Verse 2,